Operation Hastings was an American military operation in the Vietnam War. The operation was a qualified success in that it pushed the North Vietnamese Army forces back across the demilitarized zone. As the NVA clearly did not feel constrained by the demilitarized nature of the DMZ, U.S. military leadership ordered a steady build-up of U.S. Marines near the DMZ from 1966 to 1968. Background: Nva Infiltration. During late June and early July 1966, Marine reconnaissance units operating south of the demilitarized zone had observed and engaged increased numbers of uniformed regular North Vietnamese Army troops. On the 6th of July, troops of the ARVN 1st Division captured an NVA soldier near the rockpile who identified himself as being from the 812th Regiment of the 324B NVA Division and advised that the other regiments of the division had also moved into South Vietnam. On the 9th of July, a lieutenant from the 812th Regiment surrendered in the same area and advised that the 324B Division's mission was to liberate Quang Tri Province. Prelude. Convinced that the NVA had moved across the DMZ in force, Major General Woodby Kyle, commanding general of the 3rd Marine Division, recommended to General Lew Walt that the U.S. launch an operation to drive back the NVA. General Walt passed on this recommendation to COMUSMACV General Westmoreland, who gave his approval. On the 11th of July, Brigadier General Al English, Assistant Division Commander of the 3rd Marine Division, met with General Trong, commanding general of the ARVN 1st Division, and Colonel Sherman, commander of the 4th Marines at the 1st Division HQ in Hue to plan the operation. It was decided that the Marine Task Force would move into the area south of the DMZ to participate in Operation Hastings, while ARVN forces would launch Operation Lam Son 289 south of the Marines. On the 13th of July, Task Force Delta became operational under the command of General English with Colonel Sherman as Chief of Staff. The task force consisted of 4 infantry battalions, 2nd Battalion 1st Marines, 1st Battalion 3rd Marines, 2nd Battalion 4th Marines and 3rd Battalion 4th Marines, 1 Artillery Battalion 3rd Battalion 12th Marines and various supporting forces. General English established his command post at Cam Lo. Intelligence determined that the 90th NVA Regiment, with an estimated strength of 1,500 men, was using the Song Nan River Valley some 10 kilometers northwest of Cam Lo as an infiltration route, and that the command post of the 324B Division was located on Hill 208 overlooking the southwest of the valley. The plans for the operation were for 3/4 Marines to be lifted into the southwestern part of the valley to establish blocking positions, while 2/4 Marines would land at the mouth of the valley and move southwest along the high ground towards Hill 208 and 3/4 S positions. 2/1 Marines would secure Thong Ha, while 1/3 Marines would protect Cam Lo Combat Base and 3/12 Marines Artillery. SLF 3rd Battalion 5th Marines would launch Operation Deckhouse 2, 13 kilometers northeast of Thong Ha on the 16th of July, and after establishing positions ashore, Deckhouse would be terminated and 3/5 Marines would join Task Force Delta. The 1st ARVN Division and an airborne task force would launch Operation Lam Son 289 to the west of Route 1, with the 1st Division operating north of Thong Ha and the airborne operating south of Route 9. Battle. D-Day in Helicopter Valley. On the morning of the 15th of July, A-4 Skyhawks from MAG-12 and F-4B Phantoms from MAG-11 began bombing and napalming the two landing zones, LZ Crow, 8 kilometers northeast of the rock pile, and LZ Dove at the mouth of the valley, 5 kilometers northeast of Crow. At 7:25, 3/12ths Artillery took over the bombardment of LZ Crow, and at 7:45, 20 CH-46s of HMM 164 and HMM 265 began landing three-quarters Marines on LZ Crow. While the Marines met no initial resistance, LZ Crow proved to be too small for the operation. Two CH-46s collided and crashed, while a third CH-46 hit a tree while trying to avoid the other two. As a result of these collisions, 2 Marines were killed and 7 injured. All 3 CH-46s were too badly damaged to be recovered and would have to be destroyed. Later that day, another CH-46 carrying men from 201 Marines was hit by NVA fire and crashed, killing 13 Marines. Marines promptly renamed the Song Nan as Helicopter Valley. Companies K and L began establishing blocking positions around LZ Crow, while Company I stayed in reserve. Company K took fire and soon located a 200-bed hospital and some 1,200 rounds of ammunition. Company K continued on to their objective 1.8 kilometers south of LZ Crow, but they were repulsed by NVA fire as they tried to cross the Nan River, with the loss of 3 Marines killed and 5 wounded. Company K decided to set up night positions on a hill 180 meters from the river. The NVA were now aware of the arrival of three-quarters Marines, and the battalion started to come under sustained small arms, machine gun and mortar fire. By 1930, the battalion COLT Colonel Vale reported that his battalion was surrounded, but 30 minutes later, under artillery and tactical air fire, the NVA withdrew. At 2015, a reinforced NVA company attacked Company K's position and only withdrew after 3 hours of fighting. The following morning, 25 NVA bodies were found in front of the position. At 9:35, HMM 164 and HMM 265 CH-46s began lifting 3 companies of 2-quarters Marines into LZ Dove. Once landed, 2-quarters Marines began moving west towards 3-quarters Marines, but the progress was hindered by high elephant grass and oppressive heat and humidity. 2-quarters Marines were unable to move to assist 3-quarters Marines and set up night positions, with orders to abandon the move towards Hill 208 and proceed directly to join 3-quarters Marines in the morning. The 16th of July, the NVA launched mortars into 3-quarters Marines CP in the morning, and the Marines responded with airstrikes and artillery. Company K was still unable to cross the Song Nan, but the other 2 companies were able to patrol unmolested to the north and northwest. 2-quarters Marines set off at dawn towards 3-quarters S position and engaged the NVA several times, calling in close air strikes before linking up with 3-quarters at 14:45. At 19:30, the NVA again attacked Company K's position, making 3 attacks over 3.5 hours. The Marines suffered 1 dead, 5 seriously wounded and over 40 wounded from grenades thrown at short range. The NVA dragged away some of their dead, but the Marines counted 79 bodies the following morning. General English decided to deploy 201 Marines, and they were lifted into LZ Robin 3 kilometers northeast of LZ Crow by 30 helicopters of HMM 161, HMM 163, HMM 164 and HMM 265. At 1600, a platoon of Marines from the 1st Force Reconnaissance Company rappelled from a MAG-16 helicopter onto the summit of the rock pile. 3 hours later they spotted an NVA force to their east and called in artillery fire from 3/12 Marines, killing 21 NVA, and later that night called in further fire on suspected NVA positions south of the rock pile. 17-18 July. Based on the sightings from the rock pile, 2/1 Marines were redeployed from LZ Robone to the river valley near the rock pile by helicopters of MiG-16 on the morning of the 17th of July. In Helicopter Valley there was little contact with the NVA, but 3/4 Marines gave up trying to push south, and anticipating further night attacks they established a common perimeter with 2/4 Marines. General English ordered the 2 battalions to withdraw to the northeast the following day. 2/4 was to establish blocking positions below the DMZ, while 3/4 would move to the south of 2/4 and then attack south and take Hill 208. With the conclusion of Operation Deckhouse 2 on the morning of the 18th of July, 3/5 Marines would be inserted into a small valley 3 kilometers south of the Song Nan in a suspected NVA marshalling area. This area also provided a possible escape route for NVA retreating from 3/4's advance on Hill 208. At LZ Crow on the morning of the 18th of July, 2/4 Marines swept north towards the new positions, which they reached without incident by mid-afternoon. At 1400, 3/4 Marines began to move out, leaving Company K as a rearguard to provide security for the battalion CP and the engineers who were tasked with destroying captured ammunition and the 3 crashed CH-46s. At 1430 the NVA began mortaring the position and then attacked with infantry. As the Marines had filled in the fighting holes, they quickly had to dig them out again as an estimated 1,000 NVA attacked. Company K's 1st platoon bore the brunt of the assault, and its squads were separated from each other as small groups of NVA moved between them. Air strikes were called in as close as 45 meters from the Marines, and Lt. Colonel Vale called for Company L to return to the LZ and for 2/4 Marines to provide support. By 1700, Company L had arrived at the LZ, and a company from 2/4 Marines occupied high ground overlooking the LZ, and 1st platoon of Company K was able to withdraw but had to leave their dead behind. By 1700, 2/4 and 3/4 had established a common perimeter 1.7 kilometers northeast of LZ Crow. 3/4 Marines had suffered 14 dead and 49 wounded, while the NVA had suffered 138 known dead, with estimates as high as 500. Captain Robert N. Modrzejewski, CO of Company K, and Sergeant John McGinty, commander of the 1st Platoon, would each be awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions. 3/5 Marines were lifted into the position on the afternoon of the 18th of July. Only Company M encountered any serious resistance, and after calling in airstrikes they overran the NVA positions, killing 21. 19-25 July. On the 19th of July, Company K was pulled out for rest, and the remainder of 3/4 Marines were assigned blocking positions, while 2/4 Marines reorganized for the assault on Hill 208. On the morning of the 20th of July, following intense airstrikes, 2/4 assaulted up Hill 208 but found the heavily fortified position abandoned. 3/4 Marines was pulled out and replaced by 1/3 Marines on the 21st of July. On the 20th of July, 1/1 Marines joined 3/5 Marines in the valley below the Song Nan, and they met light but persistent resistance from small groups of NVA as they patrolled to the west. General English also ordered 2/1 Marines to deploy and establish blocking positions at the west western end of the valley 4 kilometers north of the rock pile. On the night of the 21st of July, 201 Marines came under fire across their entire front and responded with small arms, mortar and artillery fire to break up the attack. The Marines suffered 2 dead, while the number of Nva casualties was unknown. On the 21st of July, Company H 2/4 Marines returned to LZ Crow to recover the Marine dead left behind. On the 18th of July, the bodies of all 8 Marines were found unmolested and still with all the weapons and equipment. On the 22nd of July, the other companies of 2/4 joined Company H and began patrolling through Helicopter Valley. During these 2 days of the operation, which also included search and destroy missions, on the 21st of July, elements of 1 platoon of Company H were fired upon and the point man hit and killed by machine gun fire. At that point, LCPL Richard David Kaler immediately moved forward through the heavy fire and carried the fallen Marine back. On the 22nd of July, Kaler's platoon re-engaged the position and took heavy casualties and was pinned down by machine gun fire. LCPL Kaler then advanced and exposed himself to intense fire and charged the enemy positions. In this attack, and after being wounded in the thigh, LCPL Kaler silenced one enemy position before being mortally wounded. He was credited by his actions with saving many of his fellow Marines and was awarded the Navy Cross. On the 24th of July, Company I, 3/5 Marines was setting up a radio relay station on Hill 362, approximately 7.5 kilometers north of the rock pile. As the 2nd Platoon moved to establish forward defenses on the hillside, the NVA opened fire from concealed positions. LCPL Richard A. Pittman of the 1st Platoon ran forward with a machine gun to cover the retreat of the 2nd Platoon, and he and the survivors retreated to the crest of the hill, but the dead and wounded were left behind. One of the survivors hid among the dead as the NVA moved forward, finishing off any surviving Marines. The NVA then dropped accurate mortar fire on the crest of Hill 362 for the next 2 hours until a Marine UH-1E gunship from VMO2 silenced them. Company K moved to support Company I, but was stopped by heavy fire despite air and artillery support. Company I was also battered by heavy rains from Typhoon Aura, and this and the thick jungle canopy complicated the evacuation of wounded. Eventually, engineers were allowed in to cut out an LZ, but only 11 wounded were able to be evacuated. The NVA made repeated assaults on Company I, closing to within 5 meters at times. The Marines could hear the NVA talking and breathing nearby. By dawn, the NVA had pulled out. Company I had suffered 18 dead and 82 wounded. 21 NVA bodies were found and 2 prisoners taken. Prisoner interrogation revealed that the Marines had been attacked by the 6th Battalion of the NVA 812th Regiment. LCPL Pittman was later awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on Hill 362. On the 25th of July, Generals Kyle and English met at Dong Haran decided to withdraw Task Force Delta to the south due to the difficult terrain for maneuver and the lack of LZs for helicopter assaults. The 26th of July, the 3rd of August. On the 26th of July, 1/1 Marines moved south to Cam Lo. 3/5 Marines continued to sweep to the west and operate north of the rock pile. On the 27th of July, 2/1 Marines moved east towards the rock pile. In Helicopter Valley, 2/4 Marines was replaced by 2/9 Marines on the 26th of July, and on the 27th of July 1/3 and 2/9 and marched south out of the valley. Despite the withdrawal of the battalions, Marine recon patrols continued to operate in the Hastings operations area, and on the 28th of July a recon patrol spotted 150-250 NVA 5 kilometers southwest of the rockpile and called in artillery strikes, killing at least 50 NVA. Following a report of this mission, General Walt christened such recon patrols as Stingray patrols. While Operation Hastings officially ended on the 3rd of August, the action on the 28th of July was the last major action of the operation, and it appeared that the 324B Division had either crossed back over the DMZ or dispersed into jungle to the west. General Walt described the NVA troops encountered during Operation Hastings as follows: "We found them well equipped, well trained and aggressive to the point of fanaticism. They attacked in massed formations and died by the hundreds." Contemporary news reporting. U.S. accused of zone violation. NY Times, the 20th of July 1966. p. 3. To William N. Viet Division fails in aim to seize 2 cities. LA Times, pp. 1. A prisoner's tips sparks a battle. NY Times, the 25th of July 1966. p. 2. Division from the North. Time, the 29th of July 1966. Retrieved the 8th of April 2007. B-52s attack 3 red positions in Vietnam. Washington Post Times Herald, the 29th of July 1966. pp. A1. Hanoi's humanitarianism. Time, the 5th of August 1966. Retrieved the 8th of April 2007. Norris, John G. Rout of North Viet Division indicates big change in war. Washington Post Times Herald, pp. A18. Quiet no more. Time, the 12th of August 1966. Retrieved the 8th of April 2007.